Well, hey friends, we are going to chit-chat violas today. More specifically, these gorgeous cuties that you don't always find at the garden center. Today, I want to walk you through basically the entire life cycle of a viola. We are going to talk seed selection, how to start them, how to grow them on, and how to care for them. Because with just a little bit of care, you're going to get some beautiful longevity out of these. You might also get stems long enough to grow them for cut flowers. So let's start at the top. Seed selection. When you go to your nursery, you're going to see a lot of the standard varieties. You're going to see the penny varieties. You are going to see the jump ups. Now, for my purposes, I want a little extra special sauce. I love the nature shades. So this one right here is one called Nature Antique Shades. It is spectacular. You get a lot of rose. You get a lot of plummy colors coming through. You get just a beautiful bright yellow in the center. This one has been growing on for about 2 months. So just to let you know what to expect, this is about 2 months in. I do have a second flat that I sowed at the exact same time, and that one is quite a bit smaller, so I'm not sure why they're growing on at different rates. But this is generally what you should expect after about 2 months of growth. The one that I'm actually going to start with you today is Nature Mulberry Shades. This one is gorgeous. I'll see if I can pop up a picture on the screen for you to take a look at. Now, again, the mulberry shades, the nature shades, these are not things that you're naturally going to find at your generic garden center, but what you get to do instead is I get to buy a pack of 50 for less than $5 and absolutely have a smash and grab variety that I can play with in all of my containers, or in this case, the containers for my clients. Friends, we're coming in close. You have no doubt seen me do this before. This is a very basic seed starting setup. We have our little 6-cell guys here. We have a plastic tray. The blue 6 cells, these are actually from Bootstrap Farmers. This tray is just a spare one I have downstairs. I'm actually using a bunch of my Bootstraps for another project I'm working on. But all you need is this and your packet of seeds. Now this is the mulberry shades, like we talked about, and this came in a package of 50, and they are super duper tiny. So I have my tray here filled with seed starting medium. This is different than potting soil. This is what you want to use. It's a seed starting mix. I have a couple different varieties that I've used and I've loved. This one happens to be Gardener and Bloom. I only have about 50 seeds in here, so I'm probably not going to fill up this tray. But I am literally using a pencil to make a teeny tiny hole in the middle. And this is what we're going to drop our little seed into. I am barely scratching the surface. Like we're talking 1/8 of an inch, maybe even a 1/16. I mean, literally, we're not burying these suckers deep at all. We just want a very light dusting of soil up over the top for that germination process. Now, one other thing that you could do here, just to give you kind of a little alternative, is you can sow these directly into the middle of a 4-inch container. So like this. So for this project, I actually directly sowed these into this 4-inch container because I didn't want to bother with a bunch of unnecessary transplanting. So here we go. I'm going to start with just one side. This does hold 72 counts, so each side is 36, and I'm going to try for only one seed in each hole. Wish me luck. You know, one little trick that I learned quite some time ago is if you get the tip of this pencil wet, you can actually, oh, I picked up 2 seeds. That'll be fine. You can actually pick up individual seeds just using that little bit of excess moisture from the tip of your pencil. And this will help you cut down on duplicate sowing because I only have 50 seeds, and so I want to really make them count. And personally, I don't mind if I have a cell or two that are blank where a seed didn't germinate. And I just have a few left over, so I'm gonna continue the party over here. Oh my gosh, I have 6 more, awesome. All right, and now once you have these watered in, and keep in mind, I just have this row here and these 2 cells, I basically just come through and I give them a little bit of a mist. Now, the reason you do this is because you want to settle the seed into the soil. And if I were to come through here with a watering can, it would be a hot mess. I could risk washing or displacing my seed, and it just is much easier to come through here, little spray bottle in hand. Then we put our little plastic lid on top, and this is ready to grow on in the basement. Now, when I germinated these, I utilized a space that was about 70-ish degrees. I actually have kind of like a warmish spot in my laundry area. And then I kicked these over into a cooler spot because I wanted to slow the growth. I didn't want them to be too fast, too furious. And actually, they grow on just fine lower than 70 degrees. In fact, in my experience, they kind of enjoy it. They enjoy it around 60. So don't think that you need to grow these on in super hot conditions or with like a heat mat and all that kind of stuff. These are cool season flowers. They totally love it. So now I want to go into these ones that I seeded in 4-inch pots, and I'm going to show you where I went wrong, and then we're also going to begin plucking out some of these violas and transplanting them. So I'm essentially going to double the amount that you see in front of me. So I'm about ready to go in and start doing some more kind of detail-y work. And so when I do that, sometimes I feel like traditional garden gloves are just way too big and chunky. So I actually like to don a pair of disposable gloves. I try to reduce the number of these that I use, but sometimes this is just what fits the bill. So essentially, I showed you how I would plant them very precisely, and then now I'm going to show you the result of like the lazy girls method to planting these. So what happened is I just decided, you know, I'm going to chuck these in and it's going to be fine. Well, what ended up happening is I have a massive amount of violas that have grown on in this container. So this container actually contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants. Yours truly was like, surely they aren't going to all germinate. Well, they all germinated. So I'm going to see if I can divide this out to get 5 little baby plants from it. The other option is you just leave them really compact in here and you pinch them off, meaning you go in here and instead of separating them, you literally pluck them off at their base or cut them, and then you just like put all your eggs in one basket and you choose a leader and you go for that one. Okay, so here's what I've got going on. Because these are bigger and they are ready for like adult food, I have a bag of potting soil. I am not super worried about this being super pre-moistened because it is still fairly wet. I am going to come in here and fill this little 4-inch that I have. And I think what I'm going to do, and you can see I'm using previously loved containers, and so some of them have little splits in them. I'm not super worried about it. But you can do a couple different things. You can take them out of their bucket completely. There we go. Oh my gosh, look at that root structure. That is beautiful. That is so beautiful. They weren't headed out the bottom yet, so this is kind of like the perfect time to get on top of it. And what you can kind of do is give these a little bit of a roll here to loosen these roots, or check this out. Is this not the cutest hory you have ever seen? This is actually a Christmas present from Brian, and it is a Milwaukee hory. It was ungodly expensive, and I clean it after every use. I treat it like a tiny baby. Okay, so right here, what I've got going on is all of these violas. Now I'm going to pull off a couple leaves and it's going to be okay. But look at that cutie. That is so adorable. And I am going to pop him in just like that. Now I want these to be really full. And so I think what I'm going to do is I may only take out half of these and put them in new pots. Gorgeous. Look at that. That is beautiful. I think I'm actually going to take off that bottom part. There we go. Now, I am not opposed to having two in a singular pot, especially knowing where these are destined to go. But look at that. That is so much better in terms of breathing room. And let's see here. How many more do we have in here? Oh, actually, this is a really great separation point right here. I am going to rip that in half. Okay, that is looking so much better. I'm going to have just much happier violas now that they have a little bit more space. Now, one reason that I would encourage you to limit the amount of little violas that you have in here is because violas really need air circulation. So if you do not have proper air circulation, meaning when you're growing these on in a basement, it's actually really nice to space them out. So instead of having a flat like this, I would recommend you take out every other one. Do you see what I'm doing here? So if you were growing these on inside or in a greenhouse, I would take out every other one and I would stagger it in a little bit of a checkerboard. The reason you're going to do this, and I want to see if I have one. Oh yeah, there we are. Okay, I'm going to take you in close. The reason that you want to stagger them for good airflow is look what's happening down here. Do you see that? That, my friends, is what we don't want. This is old leaves that are emerging and then having a bunch of dampening off, okay? So this means I did not separate these early enough and I had too many growing in here. So that is why today's project is separating all these bad boys out so that we don't lose them. If this goes unchecked in here and I don't separate these guys out, this mold will essentially kill off this entire plant. So it's actually really important. It's not just gross, but it'll actually kill everything if you don't get it under control. I'm going to see how many of these I can get done. And then at the very end, I'm going to give them a good water in. But hopefully, with any luck, I can turn this big mess into a singular, gorgeous 4-inch container. This one right here, you can actually see the division between the two. So I'm just going to come straight down with my hori. Let's see if I can't break this in half. Oh yeah, that is perfect. I want to show you these side by side because over here on my left, we have 6 super overstuffed violas. And then on the right here, I want to show you what you should actually be looking at. These ones are spaced perfectly. Obviously, I got to this way too late, but it is better late than never. The last thing that I would have all of you do is now that we have fresh soil around it, it's all packed in, I would like you to settle this in with a nice, cool drink of water. And in that, I want you to use half-strength liquid fertilizer. Here's what I mean. Basically take any fertilizer that is made for flowering plants and dilute it by half. So it says add a tablespoon per gallon. at a half a tablespoon. And that will get these guys off to just a beautiful start. Now, I obviously have mine started way ahead of time, but if you're starting them now and you're planting your spring containers in March, you are going to be right on schedule. And honestly, the bang for your buck, $5 for 50 viola plants. That's a good deal, guys. That's a good deal. That's saving money. So last thing I'm going to do, now that I have a robust amount of these transplanted, I'm going to set them out in that checkerboard pattern so you can see the spacing that I'm going for. Once I put these back in my basement, I'm actually also going to have kind of like a nice rotating fan on there just to make sure that the airflow is looking good. Because the last thing I want is for all of this hard work to be destroyed by moldy, mildewy plants. Okay, so right here you can see this is like the perfect checkerboard pattern. You know, one other thing I was going to mention is that the bonus to laying it out in this formation is it is so easy to bottom water these. And when you're working with a viola or a pansy, bottom watering is the way to go. So when you do your half strength fertilizer, put it over the top, settle everybody in. And from that point forward, I only want you bottom watering because it just leaves that surface more dry. You have happier plants. And also with this spacing, it's super easy to accomplish. Okay, friends, I hope you give this a try. It is so simple. It is so satisfying. I'm going to see you in the next one. And in the meantime, say hello to your garden for me.